Hey, good morning, sweet friends. This is Miss Phillips. Welcome to our very first math video teaching us all about time. Before we get into this video, please make sure you've gone to brainpopjunior.com and watched the video called Parts of a Clock. That's going to be a really good introduction to what we're doing today. It will help you better understand how this is going to work. You can access that video by going to brainpopjunior.com, going and clicking on the Math tab. And then underneath it, you should find videos about the clock, and then you'll find the video. It's titled Parts of a Clock. And that's going to explain how the clock works and all the parts that go into it. All right, so welcome to our first video on telling time. The first thing we're going to work on today is telling time to the hour. Now, when you tell time to the hour, you need to remember that there are two hands. First, we have our hour hand. That's going to tell us the hour it is. And then you've got your minute hand, which is going to tell you if it's either the top of the hour, if it's the half hour, or where it is on the clock. So when you are telling time to the hour, you need to make sure your minute hand is always pointed to the top. The minute hand is the long one. When the minute hand's pointed to the top, that means we are at the very top of the clock, or the top of the hour. Right now, I have my clock at 3 o'clock. The hour hand is pointed at the 3. That is telling me it is 3 o'clock. Now, if I was to take my hands and I take one whole rotation around the clock, going from left to right, then it is now 4 o'clock. In order for it to be another hour, a whole hour to pass, your clock hand has to go completely around the clock back up to the top. And my hour hand is now pointing at the 4. But let's say you want to tell time to the half hour. How do I do that, Miss Phillips? It's really easy. You take a clock hand, and it's actually going to go all the way to the bottom of the clock, to the 6. When your minute hand has made half a rotation to the bottom of the clock, that means half of the hour has passed. Okay? Now, if I was going to make it 5 o'clock, it would make the other half of the journey back to the top. And my minute hand is now at the top of the clock. My hour hand now points to the 5. Let's practice that again. Right now the clock is at 5 o'clock because my minute hand is pointing to the top of the clock. It's going to make a rotation around the clock, and we are now at the half hour. We've made a half a rotation around the clock. It's going to continue its journey back up the clock to the very top, where it now rests at the 12, and my hour hand points to the 6, meaning it is 6 o'clock. All right, friends, what we're going to do right now is we are going to fold our telling time book. It's the sheet that looks just like this. It's the sheet that looks just like this. And what we're going to do, you're going to fold it. There's no cutting involved. You don't need to do anything except fold. First, I'm going to take my paper. I'm going to fold it in half like a hamburger, okay? You want to fold it so that these two are on one side and these two are on the other. It's going to be like a book. Then I'm going to take this side, which is the telling time. I'm going to take the telling time page, and I'm going to then fold it in half and crease it. You want to make sure you crease it so all the edges stay together. And now you've made your telling time book. This is going to be your guidebook to the clock as we go through this unit, so make sure you keep this book in a safe place where you can easily access it. The first page is your cover page, and then we're going to go to the first page on it, which teaches you about the clock hands, the minute hand and the hour hand. The second page is going to talk more about the hour hand and tells you how it counts the hours. The back page is going to teach you about the minute hand. It teaches you how we count the minutes. This is a very important book. Make sure you keep it in a safe place. It's easily accessible for you during this unit, okay? And our final activity we're going to do together is we're actually going to get to make our very own clock, which is super cool. So in your pocket, you should have a piece of paper with an empty clock face, and you should also have the hour, an hour hand, and a minute hand. I pre-cut these for you. Make sure you're careful not to cut off the ends, and you cut as close as you can to that the dark line. That way it's neat and it's easier to use when you go to use the clock. Now, to label my clock, you may notice it says blank clock face because we're going to have to label it. A clock has 12 hours on it. So what you're going to do is you're going to start at the very top of your clock. You just pick one of the points to do, and you're going to write a 12 at the very top. All right? Going clockwise, I'm going to start labeling at the big lines, okay? Each hour is shown by the big dark indent. That's where each hour indentation is. So I'm going to go 12, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? I am writing a number underneath each large line indenting into the clock. That is where each hour is going to go. I'm going to continue this around my clock face until I have reached back up to the top where I will end on the 12. Right, this is what your completed clock should look like. Today, we're just going to write out the hours, okay? Once this is done, you need to take your minute hand and your hour hand. And we're going to secure these. You should also have a, what are these called? What are these called?
Brad.
A brad in your bag. This is going to be used to secure your hour and your minute hands. This is actually going to be a working clock, which is super cool. And if you can either use a pair of scissors, you can use a hole punch. I don't know if I have a hole punch that's big enough to go all the way through. So I'm just going to use a pencil. You can just use a pencil, okay? And I'm going to take that pencil and I'm going to push it gently through the center of the clock. Make sure that you don't rip the clock, okay? And I'm going to make a little hole in that center. That's where your brad's going to go. I'm going to very carefully take my hour hand. I'm going to do the same thing. I put a dot. So I recommend maybe putting a dot first to mark where you're going to stamp it through. And you're just going to push through very gently. Make sure you don't rip the hour hand. Just be very careful as you do this. The same thing with the minute hand. I again would mark it first before you push the pencil in so you know where you're going to go. This is where I put mine. And then I'm going to gently push it through. Oops. So I don't want to rip it. I want to make sure that very careful. And now you should have both of them have a hole in them. I'm going to take my brad and I'm going to very carefully push it through them. You want to have your minute hand on top, so the long hand's going to go on the top, okay? So I push my minute hand in first through the brad. I'm sorry, it's hard to see this. So you take my minute hand, I'm going to push it first through the brad, very gently. And then I'm going to take my hour hand, do the exact same thing. I'm going to push it through gently. And I'm going to put it through my clock, the bottom, and then it'll take on the back. It should poke out like this. And then I'm going to take the brad and I'm going to pull apart the two pieces on the back so they're splayed out like that, and that's going to secure your clock together. And you should be able to move your minute and your hour hands around freely so that you're able to use your clock, okay? And make sure you don't do it too tight, because I just made mine a little too tight. Make sure you give it enough room so that you're able to move that minute and the hour hand, but not so much that they're gonna fall off, okay? All right. So right now, let's say I wanted to make 1 o'clock. I have my minute hand at the 12 and my hour hand at the 1. It is now 1 o'clock. If I wanted to make it 2 o'clock, I would take my minute hand. I would make it go all the way around. Make it go all the way around. Yeah, let me do this now. It's easier to do this while I'm holding it. All the way around, 1 full rotation around the clock. Moving. Not moving. We go 1 full rotation around the clock, so it's back at the 12, and my hour hand now points at the 2. Let's say I wanted to make it to 30 or to the half hour. I would take my minute hand again and I would bring it all the way around. So it looks backwards to me on the screen. I'm gonna have to redo this. All the way around, and I bring it down to the 6. It is now 2:30. and the hour hand's between the 2 and the 3 because it's halfway in between the hours, the 2 and the 3. And my minute hand is pointing down to the 6. I make it 3 o'clock. It's going to finish its journey back up the clock. I'm going to make sure my hour hand's pointed at 3 and my minute hand's going to go ahead and point to the 12 to make it 3 o'clock. All right, sweet friends, thank you so much for joining us today as we were learning all about telling time to the hour and the half hour. If you have any questions, just let us know. We'll do the best we can to help you out. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you sometime soon. Bye. End the recording. Stop. Okay. I do.